Hi Karthik, this is Ratna Kumar.
Hi, Ratnakumar.
Hi.
Uh, I see Vikram as well. So, Vikram, do you hear me?
Hi Karthik, this is Vikram. I can hear you.
Okay, all right. So, let's get started. I'll just show you the syllabus and the contents as part of it. So, as you know, this is just a demo class to understand what are we going to learn as part of ETL testing, right? So, let's see how we can, let's see what are the prerequisites to understand and what are the different topics that we are going to learn and how we are going to learn those topics and what kind of tools will be installed in your systems basically for practice and what will be done, and also all those things we'll discuss. Okay, see, basically we'll understand what is ETL as well. Let me introduce myself. See, I'm basically having more than 10 years of experience, predominantly working as the ETL tester and then the Informatica development as well, little bit, right? So that helps me to understand complete, the features of Informatica. Okay. Um, and I've been taking these classes, you could say, from last basically about 3 or 4 years on the ETL testing itself, and we have conducted more than maybe 50 batches itself on the ETL testing, right? So that's pretty much about myself. And first, let's understand what is ETL, and then we'll come back to what is ETL testing. Okay, so ETL, as you may be knowing already, ETL stands for extraction of data and transformation of data, and then load. L stands for a load. ETL. Extraction is nothing but the reading the data. Transformation is nothing but the modifying the data. And basically, you call L, which is basically called as a load, which is about inserting or updating the data. That is called as a ETL. So where does this ETL fits in? ETL is more like an integration process. Reading the data from something and processing the data or transforming the data, and then loading the data into the target table. That is what is ETL about, right? So let's try to see, before we understand that we see on a day-to-day basis, that is your OLTP. Online transaction processing system. We'll understand what is OLTP here and what kind of applications are called online transaction processing, OLTP applications, online transaction processing. And we also need to know about OLAP, or what is data warehouse. OLAP or a data warehouse. Okay, see, OLTP applications, you might have already you might have already seen these OLTP applications on a day-to-day basis live. OLTP is nothing but where there are a frequent transactions happening, that is called as a OLTP system. When I say a transaction, so transaction in a technical terms or a database terms, it's nothing but you're adding the data or modifying the data or deleting the data. That is your uh, transaction means it's a group of DML statements. So you might be knowing already what is a DML mean, right? So basically we'll understand that as well. Group of DML statements together is called as a transaction. So where there are a frequent transactions happening, that is called as a transactional system. See, on a day-to-day basis life, we use a lot of transactional system. Okay, let me give you some of the examples. So if you talk about the e-commerce applications, let's say you go and buy something on Amazon.com. Basically in Amazon.com, what is a transaction? Sales order is a transaction. Whenever a customer logs into their system and then basically purchase some product, that is a transaction there, right? So similarly, you have a lot of other transactional systems like Flipkart, and you have eBay, likewise so on and so forth. So all these e-commerce applications which we use on a daily basis for purchasing it online, that is called as a transactional system. So what is transaction here? Basically the making a payment after purchasing some of the goods, that is a transaction, or completing or buying a product, or adding any of the products to the cart, that is a transaction. So, or if the product is delivered to your home, shipment, that is a transaction. Shipment is a transaction, right? So basically, again, you are returning the product back. I mean, you didn't like the product and you're returning it. That is a transaction, right? So the process which is involved in the e-commerce process, buying the product, shipment, returning, payment, all these things are said to be a transaction. Transaction is nothing but whenever you book an order, in the backend, there will be a data will be captured saying that so and so customer has purchased, and their address is this, billing address is this, their credit card details are this, and this is the amount which is paid. Everything will be stored in that Amazon.com application, right? So that is a transactional system, right? Maybe if you talk about banking applications, right? What is internet banking system? Nowadays we download it. Let's say you're downloading Android app, and then you're just transferring the funds from one account to other account. So that is said to be a transaction, right? So you're I mean, in banking terms also we say that, okay, I have done a transaction, right? So transferring funds is a transaction. Or in a day-to-day basis, like you might withdraw the money from an ATM, or you go and deposit the money in the ATM, right? So withdraw money, and then the deposit the money in the ATM what we have with respect to this. So this is also said to be a transaction, right? So these are all the different transactions which you could say. And there may be applications on a day-to-day basis, like if you talk about some HRMS applications, like PeopleSoft, if you heard, this is to manage all the employees within the organization for their payroll, or maybe their appraisals, right? Appraisals, or leave management system. Whenever a particular employee applies for a leave management system. So these are all, you could call it as a transaction. I mean, and whenever you run a payroll for a particular month, backend there will be a transaction which gets created. So these are all the transactional applications, on a day-to-day basis. PeopleSoft is one, and also you have SAP SuccessFactors, or Oracle HRMS, or Oracle HCM Cloud. Now they call it as Oracle HCM Cloud. So likewise, there are different technologies which are there to manage your HRMS, and you have SAP SuccessFactors. This is again a technology, but eventually what I'm saying is your payroll processing application, any payroll processing application, or leave management application, all these said to be a transaction what we have with respect to that. So this is on how we use the basically the you know uh, this is on how we basically define the I mean, these are all the different transactional application what you could say we use maybe on a day-to-day basis, right? So this transactional systems, whatever we call, right? So in an organization, you may have multiple transactional systems of this kind, right? Right, okay, let me increase this. Okay, see, there may be a multiple transactional systems within an organization. Okay, so if you talk about, let's say, Amazon itself as a company, maybe for their e-commerce they may have one application, and wherein whenever they book the order, everything will be captured within this system. This is one transactional system. See, to manage all their employees, they have another transactional system, which is your HRMS. HRMS is to manage all their internal employees, whether it is related to payroll, or maybe related to the leave management, or maybe related to the appraisal process. Likewise, the everything will be captured. So each and every time, whenever you run a payroll, that gets captured, or whenever an employee apply for a leave, that transaction will be captured, or whenever the supervisor approves that leave, the transaction will be captured. Likewise, there will be another system, maybe their financial related things for managing with all the vendors. Let's say they have another application, financial regulation or something of that sort. So basically there is another application transactional system. See, what I'm trying to tell here is, in an organization, bigger organizations, there may be a multiple transactional application which they use for a different purposes, right? So so these are all your transactional system where there will be a frequent transactions happening on the system. Okay, see, before I talk about OLAP, I want you to understand about the different databases that what we have. I mean, I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with these databases. See, we know about what is database. A database is something that, or an RDBMS is something that which stores the data in the form of a tables, that is called as a relational database or RDBMS. So basically why we call it as an RDBMS, because there will be a relationship between a one table to another table within the database. That's why it is called as a relational database management system, or in our technical terms, I mean, we say that it is a database. Okay, so database is a product which stores the data in the form of a tables, and it helps you to create a relationship between a one table to a other table. That is your RDBMS. Okay, so there are different RDBMS products which are available within the there are different RDBMS products which we have. So one is Oracle, let's say the SQL server, and I mean Oracle SQL server, and you also have a DB2, right? And Teradata, and you have a Greenplum. Greenplum is another database, and you have the Sybase, and likewise Postgres, MySQL. Likewise, there are different databases, right? SAP HANA is also another database. So likewise, there are different databases which are available from the different vendors. The Oracle is from Oracle, SQL Server is from Microsoft, DB2 is from IBM, Teradata is from Teradata Corporation, Greenplum is from the this EMC Square, Sybase is again from SAP. I mean, they acquired it. Postgres is an open source. MySQL is an open source. SAP HANA is from SAP. Likewise, different companies have their own different database products. So all these databases stores the data in the form of tables. A table is nothing but which contains the rows and columns, right? So a table is nothing but which contains the rows and columns. So here, when we go for this, so this can be called as a table. Column 1, right? Column 2, um, column 2, let's say column 3, and column 4, and let's say the column 5 what we have. And likewise, this represent a row. I mean, this R1, R2, R3, likewise. I mean, R1, R111. This is a different value. I mean, basically, this represents a row and this represents a column. So which comprises, it's a two-dimensional format, which comprises of columns and rows. That is called as a table, right? So all these databases stores the data in the form of a tables, and there will be a relationship between a one table to a other table. So in order to interact with all these tables, we needed a language to communicate. That language is nothing but a SQL. So SQL stands for a structured query language, a structured query language, which comprises of it's a basically the group of executable commands for interacting with your database tables. So this SQL is actually divided into 5 different types. So DDL, data definition language, data manipulation language, data retrieval language, data control language, transaction control language, likewise, so on and so forth. Basically DDL is to define the tables within the database. If you want to define the tables, like your create command or alter command, I mean, we are going to learn all these. I mean, you don't need to worry. I mean, in case if you're not familiar with, okay, alter, drop, something like this. DML means manipulation commands. Those are your insert, let's say updating of the data, right? Update and then the delete. Likewise, these are the different. DRL means select. I mean, to retrieve the data from the database tables. That is your select command which we have. So insert, update, delete, and then the select. So these are different commands which we use for interacting with the database tables. All these databases understands SQL. SQL is the only language which you can communicate with these databases. So using SQL only will communicate. For adding the data to the database table or to retrieve the data from the database tables, everything we use an SQL. So these are in nowadays, I mean, databases are classified as structured databases and unstructured databases. What do you mean by unstructured database? See, unstructured database is something that which it is not storing the data in the form of a database tables. It is maybe storing in the form of a files, something like that. So unstructured database is your HDFS, Hadoop file system. That is your unstructured database. Or you have something called as a MongoDB. This is not MongoDB and Cassandra, right? Cassandra. All these are all the unstructured databases. This doesn't store the data in the form of a two-dimensional format. It stores the data in the different format, Neo4j, which is a graph-oriented database. So these are all the unstructured databases. So in order to interact with these databases, right, you will not use SQL. Basically, you use a different language. I mean, if you want to interact with Cassandra, there is a language called as a CSQL, Cassandra query language. Okay. Likewise, you have a pig database. For interacting with the pig, you use a pig query language, right? So likewise, these are all doesn't use SQL, but all these structured databases, whatever we talked about, Oracle, SQL Server, everything uses SQL for communication. I mean, in order to communicate with all these databases, like basically we use a structured databases, we use SQL. Okay, so we're going to understand these. Nowadays, some of the projects, they've started using these databases as well. I mean, as a tester, you might have to even understand any one of these databases, but predominantly still, for a data warehousing projects and in any ETL project, you still see these databases as part of your the project architecture or a project software. Okay, so this is your different database what we have, that is your RDBMS and the unstructured database what you see, right? So any questions on this?
No,
So
we
far
are
good. Okay, so basically this is about your different databases, and SQL is used for the structured databases. For interacting with the unstructured databases, we basically use the different languages, not the SQL. Okay, so we understand about what is OLTP, and let's understand about where does this ETL fits in. And before that, I want you to understand about the OLAP. OLAP stands for a online analytical processing system. Online analytical, let's say the processing, right? Online analytical processing system. This is your OLAP. Or when you talk about the DWH stands for a data warehouse. Okay, so OLAP or a data warehouse is nothing but it's a collection of data from a different transactional system or a different OLTPs, right? Different OLTPs, and storing it in a centralized database, storing it in a centralized database, that we call it as a centralized database, that we call it as OLAP. Okay, so basically, when you talk about data warehouse or something, it is nothing but the database. Okay, it's nothing but the database where we are storing the data, and data warehouses are in this ones are used for analysis purpose. What do you mean by analysis? Analysis is nothing but understanding how your business is doing. Let's say I want to understand about in Amazon.com warehouse, I want to understand about what is our top 10 selling products. That is analysis, right? As a business user, they may be interested in understand top 10 selling products, or let's say I'm interested in, let's say, region wise sales. What is the sales by region, right? Region wise sales. Or let's say I want to understand who are the top 10 sales reps, or let's say bottom 10 sales reps, okay, for providing their incentives, top 10 sales reps who have actually handled. Or let's say how much I have spent for marketing, or how much I have spent for sales, or how much I've spent for operations, right? I just want to know on these financial terms. So that is analysis. Analysis is nothing but, understanding the data, what is being done. That is your OLAP, which is stands for marketing, sales, and operations. So basically, this is about your analysis. So analysis, again, what you do, you actually use the tools to analyze the data. We understand what tools we use. Okay, so OLAP, or a data warehouse, or a decision support system, all these one and the same. Okay, see, you're analyzing the data. What are you going to do with by analyzing a data? See, suppose if I understand that in South India, let's say basically the sales, what sales is very less. Okay, so basically, as a sales manager of the country, if you see that there is a less sales in the South India, what you do, you basically um, you know you basically take the steps to improve there. I mean, that's a kind of, you're making a decision to improve the sales, or you're applying some kind of a methods or whatever, right? So you're applying all these. So this is basically, I mean, this helps you to analyze the data basically, and this helps you to make a decision making. So by analyzing the data, you're going to make a decisions. That's why it helps you to make a decisions based on the facts which are there. So that's why it is called as a decision support system, which is called as a DSS, right? Decision support system, which is your DSS, which it is there. So this is about more on, I mean, decision support system, what we see, right? Let's try to understand where does this ETL fits in. Okay, okay. So now we have a different transactional systems. Basically, in any organization, they need to analyze the data, and continuously they have to make a decisions to improve their business, right? They need to make improve their business. So basically, um, for most of the organization, they build the data warehouses, right? They build the data warehouses, which is nothing but they will collect the data from a transactional system and store it in a one centralized database. So when you talk about a data warehouse or a database, I mean, it's one and the same. Basically, the any database, what we understand here, can act as a data warehouse. I mean, if Amazon is actually building the data warehouse, they can choose Teradata as their data warehouse, or Oracle as their data warehouse, or SAP HANA as their data warehouse, or even Amazon has a separate database that I forgot. Basically, it starts with Red. Okay. Amazon also has a separate database. Okay. In the cloud, they actually offer it. So they could use any of these databases as their data warehouse. Okay. So it could be a Teradata, or it could be an Oracle. Anything is fine. You could use any, depending upon the data load and how much data you want to store. Basically, I want to tell you, like, Amazon also has one database they offer in the cloud. Not easy to instance. It starts with RDBMS. There's something called as a Redwood, or where is this? Redshift, sorry. Yeah, it's Amazon Redshift is also one of the database. I mean, they could even use, I mean, since we are talking about Amazon product, Amazon as a data warehouse, so Amazon Redshift also is one of the relational database what we you can actually use in the cloud. Okay, so any database can be there, data warehouse. So basically what we are going to do is every day there will be a new data which gets added, right? Any customer can come and purchase it, or any employee can apply a leave, or different financial transactions could happen, right? So the process of integrating the data from these transactional systems into a one centralized database, this process is called as an ETL process. Okay, so when we talk about an ETL, as I said, it's an extraction of data from your transactional systems, transform the data according to your need for analysis, and load it into a data warehouse. So that stands for a ETL. So reading the data from a transactional system, transforming it to your own format, and then loading the data into a loading the data into a data warehouse, which you call it as a ETL, what you see. So when you talk about the different ETL tools, what we have, there are different ETL tools which are available in the market. I mean, these are like middleware tools. So about Informatica Power Center, you might be knowing. I mean, you might have heard. And another is a Data Stage, Ab Initio, and you have something called as an SSIS, BODS, Business Objects Data Services. SSIS stands for SQL Server Integration Service, right? BODS, Talent, Pentaho. Likewise, you have a different ETL tools, and you could use any ETL tool for integrating a data from your transactional systems into a data warehouse, right? So that is your ETL. So this is where ETL fits in. Okay, so basically there will be a ETL developers in any BI project, right? So they might use any tool here, whether it is an Informatica Power Center or a Talent or a Data Stage, anything. So all these tools does integrate the data by reading it from the transactional system, transform, and then do it. So there will be a ETL developers who build the jobs, who build ETL jobs to integrate the data from your transactional system, and those jobs will be scheduled on a daily basis or a weekly basis here. So there are ETL developers in the project, and they develop the ETL jobs to integrate the data from your transactional system to the warehouse, and that jobs will be scheduled on a day-to-day basis, or on a week basis. The data will be integrated. So in your data warehouse, since it is being integrated daily and weekly, data gets accumulated and it stores the historical data. I mean, it will store the historical data with respect to that what we have. So this is on how we use the I mean, this is on how we basically use the ETL tools for integrating a data. Now, how are we going to analyze the data? See, we are loading the data here, and how are we going to analyze the data? Data will be analyzed with the help of a BI tools, what we have. So what are the different BI tools? BI tools, what it does is it reads the data from your data warehouse and represent the data in the form of a reports. A report could be a bar graph or a pie chart, or it could be a the bar graph, or maybe a pie chart, right? Or it could be a bar graph, pie chart, or a line graph, or even you can represent the data in the table of format. So reports, I mean, these BI tools will read the data from, reads the data from your data warehouse and represents the data in the user understandable format. See, whenever I want to represent the sales, basically I can represent it in a bar graph. I mean, whenever I want to represent the share of the sales by different countries, I can represent in a pie chart. So something like that. So your BI tools will read the data and represent the data in the form of a user understandable format. I mean, you can even represent in any of the formats and then show it. So BI tools will help you to analyze the data by reading it from the data warehouse. So what are the different BI tools? Okay, so different BI tools are about OBIE. Let's say you have business objects, you have Cognos, and you have Tableau, let's say you have click view, right? Click view. So likewise, um, OBIE, business objects, Cognos, Tableau, ClickView, and all this, right? So these are um, a different BI tools what we have with respect to that. So these BI tools will help you to analyze the data. These BI tools will help you to analyze the data in terms of right. So helps you to analyze. I mean, all the business users, whenever they want to know or whenever they want to understand how the business is doing, let's say top 10 selling products, regional wise sales, all these kind of things, they do use a BI tools for analyzing data. So here, BI developers will help them to build the reports, basically to BI developers will help them to basically understand, right? So this is your ETL and BI. So ETL and BI together call it as a DWBI, which is nothing but the data warehousing and business intelligence. So you have talked about the, I mean, we have talked about the ETL developers and the BI developers, then where the testing comes into picture, right? So once the ETL jobs are developed by the ETL developers, who is going to validate whether these jobs are integrating the data properly into the data warehouse, or whenever a report is being generated, how user can confirm themselves, or who is going to validate that report is actually representing the proper data. So that will be done by the ETL testers and the BI testers, which is nothing but the data warehousing testing. Okay, ETL testers job is for them, right? Okay, let's say I have a customer, let's say I have some 1,000 customers here. Okay, we'll take an example, I'll come back. Okay, so basically ETL testers will validate all these ETL jobs, whether these ETL jobs are properly integrating a right data or a wrong data. That is our responsibility to do that. And when you talk about the BI developers, so when the report is represented, how do I confirm myself saying that, okay, whatever is represented in the bar graph is correct? Or you may be having a sales $10,000 here, and in a bar graph it is represented at $9,000 by the BI developer, which is wrong. So BI developers, or BI testers will actually validate all those reports and then confirm saying that, okay, this report is representing the proper data from her data warehouse. So there is, I mean, two different types of processes in any data warehousing project. So one is a ETL testing and another is a BI testing. So if you call me overall, basically this together basically is called as a data warehousing testing. See, most of the projects where your ETL tools are used, in your 80% of the cases, your ETL tools are used in any BI project or a data warehousing project. But ETL tools can also be used in some other projects, or a data integration projects or a data migration project. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, um, right. So there may be a ETL tools may be used in the data migration projects as well. Okay, see, you might have heard about maybe the different technologies like the mainframes. Okay, now AIG is a customer, American Insurance Group. Okay, they're using a mainframes for tracking their claims, policies, and all the data. Okay, now mainframe is actually losing the chain, and most of the customers basically are migrating it from the mainframes to, I mean, the latest cloud-based insurance systems, right? Maybe, you know, let's say they're actually moving this entire their insurance data into another insurance product, which is called as a guidewire. Okay, if you heard about it, that's well and good. I mean, if you're not heard about it, guidewire is an insurance, property and casualty insurance product. Okay, so basically this is mainframes and this is a guidewire system. See, over the years, AIG might have got their different policy holders data, different claimants data, and different financial data which they have. Overnight, they can't discontinue the system. I mean, they cannot discontinue the system and start using guidewire. Okay, there is a legacy data which is there here, right? So the legacy data. So basically now I need to move all these legacy data back to my guidewire system. because otherwise I lose all my old policy holders, claim holders, and there will not be possible to use both the systems for a business users, right? So basically, whatever the legacy data is there that has to be moved, in this case, basically we can use the ETL tool here. I can use SAP bots or maybe the Informatica Power Center, wherein it helps me to move the legacy data from the legacy application data to Guidewire. So here also, when the data is moved from this legacy system to the Guidewire, how do you confirm ourselves that, okay, whatever the existing data in the legacy system is properly integrated, right? So in these scenarios, basically, here also you need to perform an ETL testing, right? Without ETL testing, you can't say that, okay, all my policyholders data is properly integrated. So here also you might have to do, and these kind of a projects are called as a data migration projects. Here also ETL testing is applicable, and people say that it is a database testing, or in some cases they say that it's a migration testing, or these different terminology which you use. But eventually, if there is no ETL tool which is used, you don't call it as an ETL testing. You just say that maybe the data testing or a database testing. Okay. So if the ETL tool is used to integrate the data, any of the ETL tool, that is referred as an ETL testing. Otherwise, it considered as a database testing or a migration testing. Right. So this is pretty much now about what is ETL testing. ETL testing is applicable in two cases, wherein one is a data warehousing project and another is a data migration project, right? So I would like to hear from you if you have any questions so far on this.
So what are the daily daily job routine for the ETL tester? What are the daily
So
tasks?
next we are going to understand that. Okay, what is ETL tester responsibilities, or basically what is a task that the ETL tester will perform? Okay, see, I'll explain you about the ETL testing process. Since you asked about this, let's understand about what does a ETL tester um, do in any uh, project, right? So basically, first thing is you need to basically understand assume that you're working as an ETL tester in any data warehousing project. Okay, so basically there are different documents which will be there. First thing is you need to understand the business requirements from your end users. Okay, when I say end user, let's say the sales manager who is interested in understanding the sales by region, right? So what kind of data that guy would like to see the data, what data they want to see, that business requirements have to be understand first, what data they would like to see, what is basically the outcome of this project. So that can be understood from a BRD document. I'm going to show you some of the sample documents when we get into a project. Okay, so basically understand the business requirements from the end users, and basically in order to perform the BI testing or the ETL testing, first thing that you need to do is you need to understand these what these ETL jobs are doing. Okay, let's say I have a ETL job which is moving a data from your customer table to, let's say, there is another table called as a dim underscore customer. Okay, so basically there is a data which is moved from this to this, but what column from the customer is mapped to what column in the dim underscore customer table, or how many customers they're actually pulling and what transformation logic they're applying. So all these ETL jobs specifications you need to understand. That is nothing but an STM. So this STM document, which is basically called as source to target mapping sheet, or in few cases they call it as a data mapping sheet. So this is very essential for an ETL tester to understand, because this will explain you what from which source ETL job is reading the data, and what transformation logic ETL job is applying, and what uh, basically the this one to which table it is loading the data and which column it is loading the data. So you need to understand that. That is very essential. So once you understand all these, you basically you have to create a test strategy document, right? And a test plan document, like how are we going to execute this and what is the scope, in scope, out of the scope items and everything. And fourth would be like you need to create the different test cases for performing the different testing. Okay, so you have to create the different test cases which are related to maybe the functional testing and smoke testing, regression testing, and performance testing, right? So different type of a testing we are going to perform, and there are different scenarios which we are going to implement for each type of a testing, right? Performance testing and comparison of data, all these. So you need to create the different type of a test cases. So basically, if you look at this, maybe if you go to training and there is a ETL testing, I mean, I was talking about maybe the ETL specifications, right? So when you go to the project, you'll have the ETL specification, something like this. Okay, let's say there is a ETL job to load the data into claim. I mean, this is your target, and what is your source? There is a table called as a CC claim, and what transformation logic you're applying, right? And what is the table, from which table you're reading the data, what is the data type of each and everything. So what transformation logic and what query you're using to read the data. I mean, what query ETL developers are using to read the data. So all these things will be captured within the, uh, STM document or a data specification document. So from this, we will understand and then create test cases. So whenever you're doing a functional testing or functional testing here, see, you're actually validating the data between a one table to another table, right? Which is like a table to table testing, right? In this case, you need to make use of the SQL to validate the data. So in all these functional test cases, right, whenever you create a functional test case, you need to understand the STM and create the query accordingly as per the ETL job specifications and validate the data between your transactional system to the data warehouse all the way through. And here SQL plays a very, very important role. By understanding the STM document, you need to create your own SQL query for validating the data. Maybe, what kind of functional testing you're going to do. Let me talk about only the functional testing. So when we talk about the functional testing, basically, you need to create the queries and validate the data. First thing is maybe count. So how many customers are there in the transactional system? And maybe how many customers are there in the data warehouse, so as per the logic. And maybe the you need to know about the count which is done. Basically the validating a data from each and every column, let's say comparing the data between a source and the target, right? So that you need to understand. So likewise, you need to define a different test cases and then validate the data accordingly. So comparison of data and likewise so on and so forth. So according to this, you need to create the test cases, and once these test cases are done, you need to get the approval for your test cases and then start. Once the migration is done from dev environment to QA environment, here you need to execute your test cases and raise the defects, execute test cases, track the defects in your test cases. Let's say track the defects and coordinate with your developers to resolve those issues, and then retest them and then reopen the defects if it is not resolved. So all these complete testing life cycle which follows again. So once you give a sign off, they migrate the code, and these jobs will be scheduled in the real time. Every day there will be a new data, and you need to run and check or integrate the data from this. So this is, overall and in a brief, like let's say these are all your ETL tester responsibilities. As a ETL tester, you need to understand the data specification, create the query accordingly, and validate the data between your. See, it may not be always a table to table data validation. There may be a scenario where you're reading a data from an XML and then loading the data into table. So here I can't use an SQL. SQL cannot read the data from an XML. So you need to find the process. Or there may be a scenario where you are actually reading the data from a flat file and loading it to a table. So in this scenario, how we are going to do? Or there may be a flat file and you're loading the data into a flat file itself. So how are we going to validate the data? SQL will not work, right? So there are different types: homogeneous testing, heterogeneous testing, and maybe a table to a flat file. So likewise, there will be a different scenarios, and we'll understand the different examples as part of that, right? So see, the question I got one question: do I need to know an ab initio? See, when you go to an ETL project, they could use any ETL tool. It may be a BODS, or it may be a Talent, or it may be a SSIS or anything. But do you really need to understand the complete in and out of ETL tool? No. Basically, if you understand how to operate it, that is enough, right? But otherwise, if you basically, you need to understand the ETL job specification. That is important. So as a ETL tester, if I understand the ETL job specification, what transformation they're applying, I will actually translate that into an SQL query and validate it. I mean, it's not, you don't need to really worry about whether they have used ab initio, data stage, IPC, Informatica Power Center, or anything, right? That's basically not really needed. But in case if you want to do some kind of a execution, I have to go and execute the job, ETL job, and run it. In those cases, yes, you might have to understand the maybe 10% of the tool just for running the executing the workflow, or checking what transformation they have used within the ETL job and all that.
Okay. And I have another question. Whenever we say that we are a ETL tester, people expect that they ask the question, do you know Informatica? Do we really need to know the Informatica, or just the basic SQL and the understanding of the data flow, that is enough?
That is enough. Understanding of the data flow within the Informatica Power Center, how are we going to execute the workflows, and what are the different tools that are there in the Informatica Power Center, how do you log into them, and all those, basically it's just the basic understanding of the ETL job. That is enough. You don't need
And
to.
what is Informatica actually?
Informatica Power Center is an ETL tool. This is what IPC, whatever I have listed here, that is nothing but Informatica Power Center.
So the Informatica must be used by the developer to develop
the ETL jobs.
Yes. So I don't need to know Informatica actually being a ETL tester.
Right.
Okay. And another question I have, are we covering change data capture in our during the class?
Yes, change data capture, how we are going to do it, and how you need to write a query for change data capture, all that we'll understand.
Yeah, thank you.
So what are the responsibilities we discussed today? Are we going to cover all these things?
Yes, definitely. We're going to cover all this. Basically, about these, right? So we are going to take a sample case study, and based on that sample case study, we are going to execute all these. Okay. Maybe where is the training? Okay, I don't have a training contents here, otherwise that would have been shown. Okay. Yeah.
Are we going to get any access to the tools, or just SQL?
No. We will have access. I mean, you'll have access to Informatica as well. You can log into Informatica, execute the jobs. If you want to understand what transformation that job is using, each and everything. I mean, we'll take a one by one scenario and we'll understand. We'll log into the
training those.
Yeah. That we are going to use Informatica. Yeah. Let me complete this. Informatica Power Center we are going to use as an ETL tool in our this training, and OBIE also I'm going to show you how OBIE reports are generated and how you need to test them. So both the tools I'll show you, not only SQL.
So the
Right.
Informatica Power Center you will be installing
Yes.
to our system. Will be.
There will be a VM, virtual machine will be installed, and in case if you do not have a proper configuration, you will be helped with a you will be helped with a remote access for a period of 60 days or something. Yeah. It depends upon, I mean, if you would like to install it on your own system and then use it, you can do that. Else you can access it from our system. That's it. Laptop configuration minimum should be of 6 GB and with a good processor, and so that it will be fast. Otherwise, maybe it may be slow. All right. Any other questions? Right, so that's it I have. Basically, you can go through the contents, training contents, and then you can come back with your, I mean, you can let us know if you have any further questions and share the feedback to the Dhirendra.
Tomorrow also same time, the class will.
Yeah, Dhirendra will confirm you that. I mean, I'm not sure about the schedule. It is just the demo that I've been communicated with. He'll communicate that.
Thank you, Karthik. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time as well. Any other questions from anyone? You guys are good? Thank you. I didn't hear anything from Vikram. So you're good?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Karthik.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
I'm closing the meeting.
Bye.